Hey everybody, welcome to Vibes and Stuff movie review. Tonight we will be reviewing A Few Good Men, a cult classic. Before we get into opinions and such, what I want to do is read the storyline according to IMDb. Had to get the sound out of my ear. I'm sorry. I'm gonna read the storyline from IMDb and read the cast. Okay. So the storyline, according to IMDb, is this: in this dramatic courtroom thriller, Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee, a naval lawyer who has never been inside of the courtroom, defends two stubborn Marines who have been accused of murdering a colleague. Kaffee is known as being lazy and had arranged for a plea bargain. Downey's aunt Jenny appoints Commander Galloway to represent him. Also on the legal staff is Lieutenant Jag something LTJG Sam Weinberg, whatever that means in military lawyer talk. The team rounds up many facts, and Kaffee is discovering that he is really cut out for trial work. The defense is originally based upon the fact that PFC Santiago, the victim, was given a code red. Santiago was basically a screw up. At Gitmo, screw ups aren't tolerated, especially by Colonel Nathan Jessep. In Cuba, Jessep and two senior officers try to give all the help they can, but Kaffee knows something's fishy. In the conclusion of this film, the fireworks are set off by a confrontation between Jessep and Kaffee. And this is a snippet provided by Matt Cortolo from epics.net. Right? And so I'm just gonna name some guys, name some people that you may be familiar with. Lieutenant Kaffee is played by Tom Cruise. Colonel Nathan Jessep is played by Jack Nicholson. Captain Jack Ross is played by Kevin Bacon. Demi Moore is played by Lieutenant Commander JoAnne Galloway. Kiefer Sutherland is played by Second Lieutenant Jonathan Kendrick. Kevin Pollak is Lieutenant Sam Weinberg. J.A. Preston is the judge, and Cuba Gooding Jr. is Corporal Hammaker, and that's about it. That's about all the famous people that we should know, right? All right. So Chuck, I ain't even gonna lie to you. I ain't even gonna hold you. When this movie was released, I didn't think it was going to be a good movie. Right? I remember the previews for it. I thought it was going to be I thought it was an in-between film. You know how actors do the in-between films? Like they have blockbusters from, like, say if Will Smith has a Bad Boys come out one summer, and an Independence Day the next summer. In between, he would do Wild Wild West. You feel me? You see what I'm getting at? I thought it was gonna be that. I didn't know. I didn't know it was gonna be this, right? But Demi Moore was coming off a movie called Ghost, which is one of my personal favorite movies. And Jack Nicholson was coming off of what was Jack Nicholson coming off? I don't know. He was in everything. So,
let me see. This is 92, so 91. Batman?
Something like that, maybe.
Oh,
he was definitely riding high off Batman, that's for sure. But I think Batman was 89, maybe.
Okay, so if it was okay, that might be right. 89 might be right.
Yeah. Something because I think Val Kilmer was. Never mind. I don't want to get into the Batmans because there was a slew of terrible Batmans after that. But but the movie itself, just like the snippet says, is a military based courtroom movie set between Cuba, the place of the incident the place of the incident, and Washington D.C. Right, and it's also so it's got these varying degrees of antagony, right? It's got the small foreign country, you know what I'm saying, at the time, we didn't really trust, and then it's set against the big national capital at the time we didn't trust, right? And then it's got the man versus the machine, the Forrest Gumpish small guy against a larger military machine, right? And it's also got the very green lawyers, the law team of the girl, the young guy, and the older guy just there to watch. All of them were newbies, basically, versus the larger scaled Justice Department, right? Because Kevin Bacon basically worked for the Justice Department, even though he was a military lawyer.
Right.
So let me ask you this. How did you like the storyline? Like, how did you like the plot of the movie? That how the antagonist and protagonist got to what got the antagonist and the protagonist facing off? How did you like that?
Um, Tom and Jack go toe to toe in the courtroom setting. We get the famous "you can't handle the truth."
Right.
Uh, at the time when this movie came out, I didn't really think anything of it.
Right.
Maybe like 11 or 12, something.
Oh man, Chuck is having technical issues. There he is.
For the adults around me,
Okay.
I wasn't I was buffering.
Yeah, you disappeared and popped back in.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what you heard, but I was saying when this movie first came out, I didn't think anything of it. Only
Okay.
because it just didn't. Um, I was in kid mode, so something like this was like okay. But in movie history, happened in this movie. Um,
Okay.
The exchange between Tom Cruise's character and Jack Nicholson's character. And like I said, that's where we get the famous. Well, you can't handle the truth, you know.
Right.
But overall, when I first saw it, I didn't think much. I didn't. It was just a movie.
Yeah.
But watching it now, I was like, oh, okay. It's a
Yeah.
little. Um, There's a lot there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there that one of the things that
Hey Chuck, I think something's going on, man. It's not coming through clearly on our end. Something's happening. I'm not for sure what.
was okay. I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Okay. Okay. It's the internet, folks. Things happen. It's the internet, man. You know, things happen, man. It's not a Chuck thing. It's a it's a worldwide web thing. Yeah. So a few good men. I'll go first. I'll go first, and that's just you know what I'm saying to give you some insight to what I believe the movie was. Um, so for one, I think the movie is the script was very well written, and for a 2 hour movie, I think the movie moved at an exceptional pace. Not fast. It's not a fast-paced movie, right? It's not an espionage movie, right? But the pace of the movie moved quickly. So it wasn't one of those movies where you saw a lawyer flipping pages in a book to waste time. Every scene in the movie held its own, right? Right? Jay Boogie, what's good, sir? Yeah, A Few Good Men. The script was for those that write, for those artists that put the pen to pad and understand what it's like, what's needed to capture an audience. This right here was well written, in my opinion. Right? The character building. Each character in this movie was believable. Right? Each character was believable, and the two characters I thought were the most believable were Loudon Downey, the gullible one. The gullible one was super believable. I think he did a great job in this movie. And where is the other? There's one more guy. Markkinen. I think that's his name. Markkinen. Markinson. Markinson.
Mm-hmm.
Markinson was super believable in this movie. Because Markinson, being second in command to the colonel, knew that ethically a lot of this stuff wasn't right, but he was under somebody else's thumb where every decision that he made or his judgment
Right.
or what he said was basically swept away by the big man in charge, which was Jack Nicholson, and the guy directly under him, Kiefer Sutherland. So Kiefer Sutherland basically played the weasel, the henchman, the minion, right, of the big dog.
Right.
Right? And so Markinson was definitely believable. Downey was believable. Cruz was extra believable in his role, as because he looked like at the beginning of the movie, he looked like an unmotivated lawyer that's super talented, that was only putting the military on his resume so that he could have military on his resume, so that he could go on and do other stuff later on in life. That's what he looked like. He looked like the guy,
Okay.
like, hey man, I'm gonna do these 4 years and get out of here. He looked like that guy, right? Demi Moore looked believable. She looked like the woman that had something to prove to everybody, who felt like she was only being overlooked because she was a girl, right? She never said it, or I don't remember her saying it. But if she was a boy or a man or male, she felt like she would have gotten further in her career, and I believe it. Right, I believe it just by the way she was treated in Cuba, at Guantanamo Bay, at Gitmo, and in the courtroom, right, and by Cruz on several occasions, right, and nobody, well, I won't say nobody, but Jack Nicholson's character at the end was very believable, because "you can't handle the truth" was a stunning line, but he was hitting you with stunning lines the whole time. Am I clear? And Cruz was like, crystal. You know what I'm saying? Right? And Jack was like, at the end, Jack was like, not only do you need me on that wall, you want me on that wall. Right? So he had lines that he was just selling. Jack was just selling these. He was so believable. So everybody, to me, even the judge who seemed to lean towards Cruz and his crew, because he knew that these guys, the Marines, were taking advantage of this young kid, he stayed stern in justice. Absolutely fair. He would sometimes he leaned towards the defense, and sometimes he leaned towards the prosecution. But it was all in the lane of what the book said. Justice. Right? Everybody. The black guy, the PFC, the one that helped Downey, what's his name? PFC. What's the guy name? He's up here somewhere. They don't even have him listed. What's he listed at? He's not even listed up here. Is this him? His name is Wolfgang? His name is Wolfgang? Okay. Wolfgang Bodison. Dawson. Dawson was very believable. Because when Tom Cruise said, "Hey, aren't you supposed to salute an officer when they leave?" And when he shoved his hands in his pockets, he was like, you remember he exaggerated it. He wanted to make sure that Tom Cruise knew that he didn't like him. Right? And they were selling that thing at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Like core.
He looked at him and he...
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. RC Creative, what's good? Man. So Chuck, I watched the movie. The first time I saw this movie, I was in a place called Fort Hood, Texas. Right? And I watched it with a room full of soldiers. Right? Room full of soldiers. So when we heard the word Code Red, for us, Code Red meant something different. Like, we never said stuff like Code Red, right? We said stuff like blanket party. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so when we first heard Code Red, we were like, oh, they do it too.
Yeah. So yeah, when I saw and then as it explained, was like because I knew NCOs that would say things. They would say the right thing to do, but they would facial expression or motion. You should be doing the opposite of what I'm saying right now. And I remember specifically two instances where they was like, you got to check the ranks. Sometimes you gotta have a little what was the word they used, like a something to get you refocused. Because we had these guys that they were always late to formation every
Yep.
day.
Yep.
uh Nothing is ever squared away. They look a hot mess.
Yep.
uh they're last to get to something, and they're the first to stop doing it. And
Yep.
so they do mass punishment. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
everybody else would be doing push-ups except that person. uh or if they were late to formation, because when you give when you give your head count, second squad. Well, where the heck is that person?
Right.
Front lean, rest position, move. Now
Everybody.
the whole squad is is face down. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care what's going on. We're just in that position until they get downstairs. So, long story short,
Yep.
they kind of encouraged that behavior, a blanket party, and I was like, man, you see why they're struggling.
Right.
Like if there was a picture, which one of these things do not belong, it would be those two. They shouldn't be
Right.
here,
Right.
but they're
Right.
here for whatever reason. Whatever reason they're here, but this is not their calling,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I
Peer
I, I,
pressure.
I I was like, nah, man, I can't. Right? Like, what are you like? We literally had a dude that looked like the live version of Steve Urkel.
Right.
Um, I don't know where this brother is right now, but his name was Barreau, but his first name was Clausel. When we
Oh
found out
wow.
his first name was Clausel,
What was your mama thinking? What was your
bro,
mama
it's
thinking?
like I mean, everything about him said he don't belong here. And I
Right.
kept asking, I was like, yo, do you have like what is your MOS? Like, you're intelligence?
What are you doing
Like,
with
why are you
us?
here?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, what is
Yeah.
your MOS, man? Because like you need to be computer programming or something. Like, you just don't fit. And one of the things is, well, we're going to leave it up to y'all to get him right.
Right.
And yeah, they toughened him, they tightened him up, but
Yeah.
that didn't change anything. He was still who
Right.
he was.
Right.
And I was like, listen, man, hey, after we come back from child, forget all that extra stuff, man. We're gonna work on shining your shoes. We're gonna take your BDU uniform. We're gonna crease them up, and we're gonna put them under your mattress. Uh, we're gonna make this bunk, and guess what? You're gonna request another blanket. You're gonna
Yep.
sleep on top of this made bunk. So when you
Yep.
get up in the morning, all you got to do is tighten it up.
Yep. Yep.
No more under the covers for you, sir.
No more under the covers.
Right. So seeing some of this stuff definitely brought back some memories, but at the same time I saw some things. I saw the sexism,
Yep.
because you remember, like, Demi's character was like, she should be the one to uh represent them, because she
Right.
felt from the beginning that they were being treated unfairly, like there was something wrong, right?
Right. Right.
um then they picked this guy, and in the beginning you say to yourself, like, how is he even in the military? Like, this guy is the most laxed, carefree
Yep.
officer I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Like, he
Right.
has no military professionalism at all. Like, he
At
seems
all.
like a slacker. And then you find out, you know, his father was like a litigator, like a judge, and um, so now to me it looks like, okay, you're an entitled kid, and like Uncle Freezy mentioned, you're just here to put this on your resume.
Right.
Um, it also showed the how relationships and sometimes someone's lack of a lawyer's lack of drive can get you uh, a sentence because
Yes.
they don't want to put forth any effort, and they just go through these mental gymnastics. Well, if you do this, that, okay, so I'm just going to plea you out for a couple of months,
Right.
and that's it,
Right.
and that immediately struck. If you military get these court-appointed lawyers possibly face these same things when a lawyer is just looking at the case from what's on paper and not
Right.
taking a real look or and it wasn't until he was called out
Right.
that he kind of had a change of heart and he was like, wait a minute, something is not right, because I didn't even press the prosecutor about a deal, and here he
Yeah.
hands me the greatest deal that two people charged with murder could possibly get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manslaughter, 2 years, and they only have to spend 6 months in prison.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And he was like, okay, how would you, this was something that wasn't supposed to go to court, because I'm the guy who doesn't like to go to court. I plead
Yep.
people out,
Yep. And that's why they picked
right?
him.
Exactly. So that makes me look at the criminal justice system differently. Like, how many people does that happen to, where we make sure that they get this public defender, right?
Right.
Or we make sure that this case is seen by this judge so that it is uh, more in our favor.
Right.
Um, we have an advantage. We can get this person to plea because we the heaviest charges and hope that these little bit of years or these amount of years they'll take versus going to trial and having to spend the rest of their life in prison. Um, um, what else did I see in this movie? Blind loyalty.
Yeah.
Those guys believed in a code that did not give two squats about them at all.
Right. Right.
But because they're soldiers, sometimes that's all you have. You have your code and your orders.
Yep. Yep.
Because because it's supposed to be God, country, family, and whatever branch that you serve, right?
Right. Right.
But with them, it was the squad, the core, uh, family, then God,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
country.
God was like second to the
So I
core.
was like, Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you saw guys willing to um, die by this code, right? Um,
Yep. Yep.
and then of course we got to see Jack Nicholson give a master class in acting.
Yes. Yes.
It's just
Yes.
a master class of I'm I'm the big dog. I've been doing this, and you two snot noses are not about to stop a damn thing.
Right. Right.
You want to know
Right.
how much you want to know how much of a man I am? Guess what? Ask me nicely.
I was just about to bring that up. I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
You want the I, am I frozen?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's you buffered a little bit. But yeah. Yeah, at the lunch table in Cuba, excuse me, at the lunch table in Cuba, he's like, sure I can, if you ask me nicely. Excuse me?
Yeah.
If you ask me nicely, I can provide it for you. Do you want it? Yes. Well, you have to ask me nicely in order to get it. And he meant that, bro. He meant because he wasn't gonna budge.
Yes.
Because when Tom Cruise was telling Demi Moore to shut the hell up and leave the colonel alone, and she pressed the colonel. Remember, she pressed the colonel before that. And he was like, "No, don't do this, you big dummy. Why
Yeah.
why you do that?"
Yes.
And see, they would never have become adversarial if she had not done that, right? Because Tom Cruise's character, Kaffee, was content in playing the long chess game, right? Letting the distinguished colonel walk
Right.
the distinguished colonel walk and allow the case to play
Right.
out how it played out. But Demi Moore pressed the colonel, showing her inexperience in those
Right.
moments because she was a detective more than a lawyer, right? And part of being a lawyer is nuance, right?
Right.
Understanding what the right question is, but also understanding when to ask it, right? Because timing is everything, right? Because Kathy
Right.
could have asked the colonel right there. He could have asked him straight up, face to face, across from that lunch table, "Did you order the code red?" But he chose not to, but he always wanted to, but he knew the timing wasn't right, right? So in order for him to set up the question, set up or ask the
Right.
question, or set the answer up with the proper timing and question, he allowed the colonel to get into his bag when the colonel was ready to speak. So when the colonel was ready to speak to that, that's when he asked the question. Right? After the colonel had screamed out, "You can't handle the truth," was the perfect time to ask him if he ordered the code red. Because he's like, "I want the truth." And the colonel was like, "You can't handle the truth." Right? And the colonel went into his bag. Tom Cruise looked away at those two kids. Remember the two dudes, the two witnesses he brought in the courtroom? He brought them in there to bluff the colonel. And the defense didn't even know it was a bluff because Weinberg had asked him what they saw that night before they went to the courtroom, and Kaffee said absolutely nothing. So he brought them in the courtroom to bluff the colonel into doing the same thing the colonel wanted to do in the first place. The colonel wanted to get on his soapbox in the first place. The colonel had been at that post for so long. Hey Chuck, you bounced out and bounced back in, bro. I don't know what's going. Maybe it's a StreamYard thing, but the colonel was being protected by the Justice Department. Remember at the beginning of the movie They were like, you know what I'm saying? Basically, you can't touch this guy. This guy is like bosses. He's gonna be he's gonna move into some type of position. Remember all that in the beginning of the movie? So in the beginning of the movie, they were like, yo, Colonel Jaffe is gonna be moved into some kind of high position. I forget what the name of the position is. Right? I forget what the name of the position is, but all right. So Chuck said he was buffering and he's gonna try to come back in. Okay. All right. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. I don't know what the heck is going on tonight.
Okay. Well, what we'll do, we'll just make this a short one, bro, just until we figure out what the tech issues are. And then, you know what I'm saying, and then if we have to revisit, we'll just revisit. But yeah, Colonel Jaffe was liked by the government. He was gonna get a certain job. He was lined up to get it. And this is the reason why they picked Tom Cruise, a plea bargain attorney, to take the case. Take it out of the girl from internal. You remember she is the girl from Internal Affairs. They didn't want her going to trial and embarrassing everybody, and dragging the colonel and they're asking him all kind of questions that should have stayed under the rug. That's why they told her to leave the room. Because in the beginning, remember, she was like, "Yeah, I think I should be." And the dude was like, "Hey, go get some coffee." She was like, "I don't want no coffee." And he was like, "Yo, go in the hallway so we can talk about you behind your back." Remember that in the very beginning?
Right.
They was like, "Yo, we got to find an alternative because we don't want her pulling scabs off of wounds." Because she would have did that because that's what she was known for. That's why they moved her to Internal Affairs in the first place.
Right.
Right. So who better to get than the kid, the plea bargain king, who could care less? He just serving his time. He just want the military on his resume, just to, to go and get out and resume his lawyering career somewhere else. Right. And so the basically this was set up to be a feeding frenzy for the government versus a soldier. And it wound up being, like most cases, 19, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids watch these commercials and movies about the military and see one thing, and then when you join, you see something else.
Something totally different, yeah.
Yeah, you take these 17-year-old, 19-year-old, 17-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids, naive, see the world one way. They probably from a small town, ain't never been nowhere, and all of a sudden, they get put in these positions of high responsibility, right? And people above them have been in these positions. See, Jack Nicholson in this place, you can tell he had been a Marine for about 30 years. Jack Nicholson in this movie, him, Marcusson looked like they had been in the military 30 years, right?
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland easily looked like he had been in for 10. Easily.
Right.
10 years plus. The judge, easily 20, 30 years. Easily.
Right.
Now I'm buffering 2-string, y'all? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, hey, I'm going to ask this last question and then we'll wrap up, bro. Hey, Chuck, aside from Demi Moore, how many other women had any significant scene in this movie?
None.
None. The only on-screen female voice that I heard from another woman was when Tom Cruise walked out of the office and he was like, "Hey Flo, I'm headed to Cuba," and the voice said, "Hey, say hello to Castro for me." Remember that when he walked out? That's it. I don't remember another major. I don't remember a woman having another major part. As a matter of fact, the dude that was messing up at second base when Tom Cruise was hitting those ground balls at second base.
The aunt.
Oh yeah, the aunt. Yeah, you're right. But how many lines did she have? 3?
Yeah, that was it. Says
yeah.
smart,
Right.
take a step back, and that was it.
Yeah. That was it. That was it. Hey Chuck, let's wrap this thing up, man, because we having severe tech issues with this, man. Hey, man, my apologies, man. I didn't know it was gonna be
One
this bad.
thing that oh
See, you buffering right now. I can't even understand what you're saying. Yeah, you buffering right now, man, and it froze. I can't even
yeah,
understand what you're saying.
okay.
Yeah, man. Hey, y'all, everybody, listen. We sorry about the tech issues, man. We, of course, if we knew we were gonna have some type of tech issue, we wouldn't have jumped on. But we appreciate everybody for hanging out, man. We're just gonna wrap this up, man. I'm sorry we did not do any justice to A Few Good Men, but I recommend you watch A Few Good Men. If you can see it again, I think it was a great movie. A great movie. On a scale of 0 to 10, I definitely give it a 7. I rank it up. I rank it higher than Heat, but not as high as The Shawshank Redemption.
I agree. I rank it higher. I rank it higher than Heat. One of the things that I saw, which you and I do know, the discrimination amongst the branches.
Right.
How in real life the Marines and the Navy men have issues with one another.
Right.
The Marines think the Navy dudes are soft.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
right. So we got a chance to see that those Marine about those Navy officers asking them questions. Because even Keith Sutherland's character had some spice for Tom Cruise's character.
Yeah.
Can I call you? No.
Yeah.
You call me Lieutenant.
Yeah.
It is like nah. It is like nah, man.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that I saw. Because in real life, it is like that. The Marines and Army guys look at the Navy and Air Force dudes.
Like y'all soft.
You guys, wait a minute. Y'all PT are on stationary bikes?
What? Yeah. In the long run, they probably save millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying, on suits and stuff, like, after service care. But during that time, yeah, they do look soft. So, hey Chuck, let me wrap this thing up so we can, because we're buffering so bad. Sorry guys about the technical difficulties and such.
I can tell now.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap right here, guys. Thank y'all for watching. Again, we apologize, man. We'll see y'all for Vibes and Stuff live Monday morning at 8 a.m. We out of here. We'll see y'all later. Peace.